What's going on, everyone? I am recording here from my house in Las Vegas, and I want to wish you all a very happy new year. And yes, a lot of things happened throughout the months, even before the end of 2020. Now, I'm glad that Biden and Harris won the election, though they were not really much of a candidate, but they really performed well, and they really did a good job on campaigning. And this was the longest presidential election ever in history, and where this is also the longest or the only or the first of presidential election to where people will vote by mail and cast in their ballots by mail. And yes, it almost took a few days until there would be, a winner. And I'm glad that Biden won. Even though that Biden wasn't my first choice, I'm glad that he won. At least he's still better than the crazy people like Trump. So, Trump has this baseless claim of voter fraud in which there's no proof. And it's crazy how there's one analyst who I listened to and said that if this happened 10 years ago, they would be like, you'll be crazy, or you must be psychologically crazy if to say that dead people voted. I agree. And to say that like there was a voter fraud, and the words of this Trump's lawyers like Powell, Wood, and Giuliani, and even with the crazy fact that like Giuliani would hire witnesses who are so dumb as him, and there's like this Indian national that so crazy, like recommending ID because all people look alike, all Chinese people look alike, all Indian people look alike. What? Doesn't make sense. And especially the infamous Melissa Carone, where she sounded drunk on the hearing, and she said that I signed something and I could go to prison. Did you? And then stories resurfaced that she blackmailed her lawyer by sleeping with her lawyer's husband or fiance. Now, to the runoff elections, I'm glad that the two Democrats defeated the Republican candidates who were the richest politicians in the country. That would be Reverend Warnock. I'm glad that a pastor, especially this pastor, was a pastor at the Church of Martin Luther King Jr., just got elected to the Senate. Especially his fellow Georgian, who is a Jew, John Ossoff, also got elected to the Senate. I'm glad that they are elected to the Senate. I'm glad that the two Democrats, now the Democrats control the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the White House. I'm also glad that these two wealthiest politicians lost, because these politicians are also controversial, David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, in which they enrich themselves at the midst where they should be helping their fellow Georgians. So it is just amazing how, in spite that I agree that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Nancy Pelosi faction are divided amongst Democrats, there was nothing more intensely high of the division within the Republicans. The intensity was so high. And so when Lynn Wood, one of Trump's lawyers, went to Georgia and decided to campaign with the Trump fans and decided to attack the Republicans who they should be endorsing, Loeffler and Perdue. Instead, attacked them for not showing up and for not signing, or for Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia to start a special legislature of the voter fraud thing. So I got up in the morning and to find out that Ossoff and Warnock are officially the winners, and that the Trump mob rioters broke in to the Capitol. And as I am recording this, there are stories that are resurfacing that even amongst the congressmen, that there was a plot to storm the Capitol days before the attack. And this is almost like not a riot or protest, but almost a coup d'etat, in which it is almost like in a worldview that America got its own taste of what it did to other countries in the Cold War. Now, this is almost a reminder that even an article where India is kind of reminding Washington about the terrorist attack that happened in Indian Parliament in 2001. You can go ahead and find it and Google yourself. And now it's also a reminder where a terrorist group in Armenia stormed in the Armenian capital and they shot 8 people, including the head of state himself. You can also read that too. Especially a guerrilla group in Colombia that stormed in the Colombian Supreme Court and killed some Supreme Court judges. So, and America's adversaries is laughing at the United States right now for what happened on January 6th. And now China is lashing back at Pelosi for supporting the violent mob that broke into the Hong Kong legislature. And I somehow agree that what the Hong Kong rioters did in the Hong Kong legislature is about the same, and it's condemnable, like what happened in the Capitol. Because if you really look at the footages between the U.S. Capitol versus the Hong Kong legislature, the Hong Kong legislature, the vandalism of it was way worse than what happened in the U.S. Capitol. And I too condemn that. And this brings me to the fact that, like, the October 2019 segment of LeBron James on Daryl Morey's tweet is still relevant because it is somehow true. And it's somehow offensive that, like, it is true that Morey was misinformed because, and LeBron had the right to say that, because if LeBron James only cared about money, he only cared about, his wealth, LeBron would have not stood with organizations and started foundations if he cared about money. I'm saying it as a realist. So I am glad that Trump is impeached for the second time. And this is the this is the first president ever in U.S. history to be impeached 2 times. The House voted for Pence to call for a 25th Amendment, but since Pence refused, a vote for the impeachment. And yes, Trump got impeached for the second time. So I'm glad that someone from my state will be joining the Biden administration on the Department of Health, and that is State Senator Ivana Kinsella, who is also part in some committees here in the state. And I wish her a blessing and good luck. And also, there are calls for resignations of Nevada State Assemblywoman Annie Black for participating on the Trump mob that happened on Wednesday. And she has lashed out at the people who are calling her for her resignation. So, this is pretty much my thoughts about all the things that happened for a few months. And we're looking forward to see what will happen in within this year. 2020 was a very rough year, especially for the coronavirus. And don't listen to the hysteria by the media outlets. Just follow the safe guidelines and just keep taking vitamins, eat the greens and veggies that are good to boost your immune system against the virus, and just stay safe and survive. It will get through. I promise that. So, this is my thoughts about what happened for the few weeks, and stay safe and Happy New Year once again, and good evening.